Hello and welcome to the Michael Mapes Show. I am your host, the one and only Michael Mapes, and today I'm going to be trying to explain my dimensional theory without using a script and going pretty quickly because my computer is totally going to crash on me if I don't. Okay, pretend you're a stick figure and you're looking at your friend. All you would see is a line. This is because a stick figure's perspective is in line with the plane, similarly to how we would see kind of a line by looking at the side of a sheet of paper. But a sheet of paper is a three-dimensional object that's just really thin. Okay, so similarly to how the stick figure experiences in the first dimension but exists in the second dimension, I believe that we exist in both the third and fourth dimension, but saying that we exist in the third dimension is like saying a stick figure exists in the first. It only makes sense from the perspective of the experiencing party. Alright, and the next one. Okay, yeah, so everyone thinks that the fourth dimension is time, but I would like to say I think that time is how we move through the fourth dimension. So basically, if we were a dot, could we experience time? Because if a dot could experience time, then supposedly it could happen in any dimension. And this is a picture of three-dimensional objects going through the fourth dimension for some reason. I included that in there early on, like way too early, I think, but okay. Ooh, we're making pretty good time. Okay. So basically, I'm going to try and use this line to make an example. It's like my favorite line, actually. So this represents the endpoint of the line, but where exactly it is, we are not quite sure. Today, we get a ruler and we measure it at 3 inches. Tomorrow, we get a digital caliper and measure it at 2.97. We get a machine that will literally measure it every single day, getting more and more specific. Imagine it like falling into the Oh man, I keep saying paper. Imagine it like falling into the plane. But remember, there's no third dimension. It's just really similar. That's the point I was trying to make. Okay, so basically the way that three-dimensional objects, pretend these are all three-dimensional. Okay, I'm not gonna do that, but you get the idea. Okay, so the way that three-dimensional objects move through the fourth dimension is either by movement or concept. Wait, I should probably draw arrows. Okay, movement or concept. Concept starts to come into play with life because life inherently has a goal. Yeah, okay, I feel pretty confident in that. Okay, moving on. Okay, so this is... Oh, okay, yeah, I remember where I am. Okay, so remember how I was talking about zooming into that point infinitely to measure it more and more specifically? Well, the third dimension, sorry. Okay, the third dimension, zooming in, is how we kind of get the perspective or the, tangling of the fourth dimension. That's how you get time. That's how you get time with a dot is by zooming in, and that's how you get time in the third dimension by zooming in. Okay. So basically, okay. Why did I draw this? Okay, I think, okay, basically these eyes are looking down the line, kind of similarly to how our experience is looking at time, and like how you got a digital caliper and then a machine to measure the dot more and more specifically by zooming in. That's like our minds, except experiencing the third dimension by zooming in. All right, lovely. Oh, okay, next one. Okay, so I've been talking a lot about time, but I haven't talked about any of the other dimensions. Okay, but before I can talk about the other dimensions, I have to talk about space, which is interesting, more interesting than the other substances. No, wait, no, it's just dimensions. Okay, I can use that word later. Okay, but right now I need the word dimensions. But basically, space is relative to the substance that you are measuring it to, or the dimension that you're measuring it to. Well, no, okay, yeah, the substance. Space is one dimension higher than the substance that you're measuring because substance is a tangling of space. Okay, lovely. All right, no, I don't want to go too far. All right, so first we have a dot, which is only a substance, not space. So a dot is 0 dimensions. And basically the quality of the 0 dimensions, as we talked about with the zooming in, is that dots are infinitely small. And no matter how far you zoom in, there's the smallest amount that you can measure while still knowing that they're there is like the point of a dot. Basically, the zooming of these dots getting farther apart as they get more specific, I attribute things moving apart, whether it's because it's too large for other forces or too small. So like galaxies that aren't connected by gravity, which I'll talk about, are basically down to these dots which are zooming apart. Well, you zoom into each specific dot as space zooms apart. All right. Okay, now I get to talk about gravity. But first, a line bends into the second dimension to create substance. So this shape, which is a line that is still infinitely thin, is a substance kind of similar to a dot, but then there's also the quality of lines, which basically means that anything above the first dimension, any dimension that kind of is tangled up, will basically warp the first dimension, because the idea of a line is that certain points are in line with each other, which is space, basically understanding that certain points are in line with each other. Like any substance is just a tangling of space. So gravity is a tangling of space in the first dimension, but whatever is creating that gravity is above the first dimension. Okay, so next I'll talk about two-dimensional substances, which are actually three-dimensional objects in some cases. Basically, I'm not doing so well on time anymore. All right. I believe that light is a twisting of the second dimension, and basically as you add energy, the light untwists and then connects to itself and creates protons and electrons. And then magnets are kind of like a Mobius strip. There we go. Magnets are kind of like a Mobius strip because this twist part goes through other objects, I suppose. So this non-metallic material is resonating with these with the magnet, because it's kind of like a screw that's basically going through all of them. Basically this ring right here kind of uncurls a little bit as they resonate with each other. So imagine it like adding energy to like the light. It causes it to untwist a little bit, and then basically, okay, yeah, they all start resonating with each other. Okay, actually, you know what, I gotta be honest, that's way more specific than I'm ready to get into. I don't know anything about that, but this is just my theory, is that they resonate, and basically it causes this two-dimensional force, which in these magnets opposing each other, the two-dimensional force is twisted against each other. So don't think of it like positive and negative. Think of it like a side of the Mobius strip. Okay. One more thing. And then three-dimensional substance is four-dimensional stuff. Like basically moving through time is four-dimensional stuff. So objects bouncing into each other, I suppose. And conceptual three-dimensional substance, which comes into play with life. Because, like I said before, life has goals, and so basically it creates all these implications. But that is something I will get into next time. Thank you for watching.